Hi guys, in this video we would be talking about laser loading in Angular, and laser loading is actually something that is very important if you're building a big application. So laser loading is actually an act of loading a specific aspect of your web application only when you need it. Now, the next question that you might be asking is, why would you want to do that? So the reason why you should load an aspect of your application only when you need it is so that you're going to limit the initial loading size of your application. Now, let me explain this. Let's take, for example, that we have an application, one web application, but this application has two major parts. One part is for the customer and the other part is for the admin. Now, it's no news that we don't want our customer to even access the admin section of the application, because they don't have any business there. So, but because of the admin and the customer application are actually in one application, we're actually going to load the entire code base. So let's say the admin application actually has some functionalities like charts, pie charts, some sorts of data, and the admin application is actually so big. And let's say the bundle size, and when I'm talking about bundle size, I'm talking about when we're done building our application, the total size of the application, the bundle size of just the admin section of the application. Let's say it's about let's just say 10 megabytes, for instance. The bundle size of the admin section is 10 megabytes, and the bundle size of the customer section, let's just say, is 2 megabytes. But I am a customer. Now, each time I want to use this application, I would end up loading 12 megabytes, which might take about, let's say, 12 seconds to load, for instance. Now, it simply means that I will always have to wait for 12 seconds every single time I want to use the application, instead of just waiting for just 2 seconds, which would really be a faster experience for me. So, this is why lazy loading is actually important in our web application, to limit the time it takes for the application to load up at the initial point in time. So I'm going to show you this in action. So first we have our application here from the previous video, and just in case you don't know, this is a series. So if you want to keep track with this series, you just click on the link in the description below. Let's go back to this place. So this is what we created in the last video, and I want to show you some things over here. So here we have our main.js, and our main.js is actually 234 bytes. And when you come over here, you can see that our total size is actually 2.8 megabytes right now. And you can see that it takes us about 1.46 seconds to load up this entire web page. So let's take a look at this again. So now it depends on the speed of your computer or of your internet, actually. So right now it's taking us 850 milliseconds. And if I should refresh this again, let's say it's taking us 777 milliseconds. But you can see that the size remains constant, right? So the size of this remains 2.8 megabytes. So what if I should add an admin section to this application? And of course, I'm not going to be making a fancy admin session. I'm just going to create some components and just pretend that that's an admin section for the purpose of this explanation. So let's come over here and let's create a new component called admin. Now in that admin, I'm going to be creating a stats component and a dashboard component as well, as these are the different pages we're going to be having in the admin application. So first off, I'll go ahead and create a folder called admin, because I want to create all our components, all our admin components within this folder. So having created that, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to open this in my IDE. So now I'm going to say ng generate component. Let's say my first component I want to create, that just says dashboard. So I'm going to say dashboard, and I'm going to click on enter to create that particular component. And the second component I would like to create, I'm going to create, let's say, stats for statistics. And I'm just going to make them 3. And I'm also going to create an admin login as well. So let me call the last one here admin admin login admin login. So I'm just going to do this now. Great. So I have this here right now. Okay. So I haven't done this now. I'm going to open up my admin folder and you can see my files over here. So over here, I'm just going to load this up with some dummy text. So I'm just going to Google up Lorem Ipsum. So let's go over here, Lorem Ipsum generator. And let's copy some Lorem Ipsum text over here. So let's see, let's get some text from here. So now I'm going to copy each of this text over here. I'm just going to copy it and I'll move over to my IDE and I'll paste this here several times because I really want this particular file to be very, very large. So I just pasted that several times, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to copy the whole of this text and I'm going to paste them in the different place that we have over here. So let me open my dashboard HTML. Oh, I just remembered I've not copied that. So I'm going to copy all of this and come over to dashboard. So the essence of me doing this is just to ensure that the size of this particular file is just going to be big, and that's why I'm copying a whole lot of text in there. So let's say here now I have this, and I'm going to paste this over here. So great. So now we have our admin, the admin section of our application. So let's see when we save this now and we go over to our application. Remember, initially it was 2.2 megabytes, right? So let's refresh this application and see what happens. So right now you can see the application is currently 4.9 megabytes. So if I should add more of this, if I should duplicate this again, like pasting more things here, and I save this, we come over here to refresh this. So now we can see that this is 10.6 megabytes. So that's to tell you that the more code you write, the more the size of your application increases. So now that we have this over here, you are currently on the customer side of the application, but we just have to wait too long. We just have to waste our data. We also have to waste our time just to load all the code for the admin when we are not even going to need them. So this is actually not a good practice. Then how do we resolve this? We resolve this using what is known as lazy loading. So let's go ahead and lazy load this application right now. So to lazy load this application, all we need to do is to create a module. We're going to create a module, and we're also going to create a routing module as well for our admin application. So let's go ahead and create a module first. So we're going to say ng generate. In this case, we're not going to say component, which is C. We're just going to say M, which is module. So we're telling Angular to generate a module for us, and we want to call this module admin. So I'm going to create a module first, and after which I'll then create a routing module as well. So I'll go ahead and create a routing module this time around, and I'll call this now admin routing. So I'll call this admin routing module. So let's see how this goes now. So we have two modules over here. We now have the admin module, which is actually in this folder, and we also have the admin routing module as well. So I don't want them to be like in different folders. So I'm just going to place this in the admin root directory, and I'm going to delete this empty folder over here. And I'll do same thing for the admin routing module as well. So I'll just take this to the side and delete this empty folder. So in this case, now that I am in my app routing module, the first thing I want to do is to remove my declaration because I'm not going to be needing it. So I'm going to come over here and now say const. So what I want to do now is that I basically just want to create my route. So I'm going to give this a type of routes over here, and this should be equal to an array. And in this array is where I'm going to be inserting all my routes. So before I go ahead to insert on my route, I also need to import the router module as well. So I will come over here and I would say router module, and this is going to be for child because at this particular point in time, this is for a specific child component. So what I'm creating now is a child module, because admin module is going to be a child module of app module, meaning it's going to be a subset of the app module actually. So what I'm going to do here is I'll say for child, and the route that I want to load as a child route is actually going to be the routes here, which I just created. So I'm just going to put route here, and I also need to export the router module. So I'm going to say export, and I would say router module. So this is actually very similar to something we did for the app routing module over here. So you can see for the app routing module, we say that this is for root because it is actually the root of the application. It's the first route the application is actually going to load up. So back to our admin routing module. This is for child, and let's just create some route over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I would say that the path. So I want this path to be an empty path for now. And let's say the component that we want to load up here, let's say the component should be dashboard. So we're going to say dashboard component, and let's just load this, duplicate this 2 more times and change values. So the next one we have here now is stats. So let's say stats, and here we're going to say stats component. And the last one here is, I think it's admin login. So let's say admin. Oh, let me make this the admin login instead. Let's go to admin, uh, admin login component. And this is going to be the dashboard. So, and this for the dashboard component. Great. So now that we have this route, the next thing we want to do is to register this admin routing module within our app module. So within our admin module, I meant to say. So we're going to come over here, and on the import side, we're just going to import our admin routing module. So this is also similar to the way it's done here in our app module. You can see that we actually registered our app routing module. So it's basically just same convention. So let's come over here. Let's save this. Now, the last thing we want to do now is that we want to take this particular module, because of this particular module right now is actually holding all of this. Oh, I think we've not done that yet. So we've actually not done that yet. So we can see our declaration array is actually empty. And this is because of our app module is actually holding the dashboard, the stats, and the admin component and the admin login component. But we don't want this to happen. So we're just going to take this out of here. We're going to take this out of here, and we're going to remove this as well. Remove the importation. So we'll move over to the admin module, and under our declaration, we actually import all this over here. So what we just did is that we have instructed Angular to consider all these components to be under this particular module. So all these components are no longer under this particular app module anymore. So if we should save this now, you would notice again that our size had actually reduced. The size of our application had actually reduced again. I think it was about 10 megabytes thereabouts before. So now that we have actually refactored this, what we need to do now is to come back to our app routing module. So in our app routing module, I'm going to create a new route here that I'm going to call admin. So I would say the path here should be, let's say admin. I need to put a comma here and a comma here. Then the next one is the component. But instead of us loading a specific component like we've done before, we are going to be using a new stuff. So we're going to say load children. So for this load children, this is actually going to take an arrow function, which is going to make us to import this particular admin routing, this particular admin module, I meant to say. So to import that now, we're just going to say admin slash admin module, and this is obviously returning the promise, and we then need to say then. So we'll just say then m, we're just going to use our arrow function to return the module itself, which is the admin module. So now doing this simply means that we have lazy loaded this entire module, and lazy loading this module is actually lazy loading every other component that is registered under that module. So let's see this in action in the browser. So over here now, when we refresh again, we can still see that our application is still 2.8 megabytes. So if we should come over here, I think we need to create a new route here to lead to the admin. So let's do that quickly again. So go to the app HTML. Let's just duplicate this and let's call this one here admin. Let's call this admin and let's call this admin. Oh, come on, admin. Okay, so let's come over here. Now we can see we have our new admin route over here. So if I should click on login now, and we refresh this first, this is the normal customer facing login. So this is login. We can see it's 2.8 megabytes. Home is still 2.8 megabytes. And I wanted to pay attention to what's going to happen over here. So about us still that, contact us still that. But by the time I click on admin, let's click it now. Now you can see that this size has actually increased to 7.8 megabytes. And I also want you to take note that we now have an extra file over here. Now this is actually saying source app admin. So this is a new stuff that's now being loaded, and you can see the size of that particular file alone is about 7.8 megabytes. And when it's downloading, you can see that these are actually, oh, this is actually the transfer size. You can see that's actually 10.6 megabytes right now. So we have a whole lot of code base being loaded, but this is not going to affect the customer when they just log in, because when a customer just access this web page, they only need to wait for a few seconds to load up 2.8 megabytes of data, which actually took about how long? This actually took about, let's see the time this takes. So this actually took about 761 milliseconds, which is technically less than a second. But if we are in the admin app right now, let's refresh this and see. So you can see that this is taking about 1.24 seconds, which is way greater than 741 milliseconds actually. So this is actually going to be a good user experience to your customers if they're able to lazy load application. So imagine that this is actually about the admin application is actually about 20 megabytes, which I consider to be too large anyways, but 20 megabytes, and your user actually have a poor network connectivity. It's just going to take a whole lot of time for that particular web page to load up, and because of that, they would just want to leave your application because it's taking too long to load. So lazy loading is something you should really add in all of your application, and I'm very sure your customers or your clients will be happy you did that. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.